Hello friends, I'm Alicia Noneman, author of the now plural books, Don't Be a Stranger, which is on connecting more favorably and memorably with first impressions, and Don't Be a Stranger to Grief on healing from pain of loss. And also wrote Ann and Field's Consultant, which is what has brought me to this public platform here. Thank you for being in my community and in my world. So last night we were in a meeting that I host every month with a dear friend of mine, and it's called Nuggets of Wisdom, and we share quotes, inspiration, connection, and laughter. And last night, the theme for the meeting was actually grief. One of our dear friends had lost her little baby, her little puppy. And so the quote that was shared was, "Until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened." And that's a quote by Anatole France. And it reminded me of a video that I recorded a few years ago that frankly inspired myself. And the video was about what our dogs can teach us. And replace dog with whatever your animal pet happens to be, right? That's enlivened in you something. And what I remember reflecting on was how much of me, and really how much of the best of me, has expressed itself through the love that I've shared with my dog. So my little Kaylee is now 16, and that's scary to think about. And when I reflect on the years of our relationship together, she has brought out in me sides that I'm not always proud to say don't always show themselves up in the most important relationships of my life, in those tender, most vulnerable moments when feelings are running strong, emotions are running strong. So I thought I would offer a couple examples of how our animals can bring out the best in us. And so I think about this little one. So you can see her little face, her sweet little face. So when Kaylee's sad, it is very easy for me to connect with her on that tender level of just, I stop what I'm doing, and they have expressions, they really have little personalities, and I get on level with her, and I connect by making eye contact. I don't just walk by her in the house, but I actually look at her and I talk to her and I say, "Baby, are you okay? What's going on? What's hurting your heart?" And I think about how nice would it be if we connected with each other, humankind, that way. Especially if you think about your closest, most intimate relationships. If your partner is sad, or your child, or your parent, or whoever just happens to be close to you, and maybe at times there's strain in the relationship, or there's threat of being abandoned or being hurt. We don't always show up as our best, most tender selves in those moments. And so I think about if I could treat everybody the way that I do Kaylee when she's sad. If I could just look into their eyes and say, "Hey, sweetheart, what is it that you're needing? How can I be there for you? Do you just need a hug? Can I just hold you?" Right? And how often that's all she needs. And how often is it that my fellow human just needs that, right? And yet it's not always so easy to extend that. Another one I wrote down is when she's feisty. So when my little baby's feisty and she's jumping around and she's giving me those looks like, "Grr," and normally I interpret that as her being playful. And so then I start playing back. I'm like, "What? What do you want? What do you want to do? You want to play?" And can you imagine if we approached our partners that way, or people in our lives that way when they're being feisty? Now, granted, it could also potentially frustrate them if they're actually hurt or frustrated over something. You don't want to go into play mode, but how often could that actually make things better? If somebody were upset or were coming across a little sassy and you were able to be like, "What's wrong? Is everything okay? What can I do? Do we need to eat? Do we need to feed you? What's going on here?" I can tell you what, it would work on me because it would make me laugh. And if I'm laughing, it has cut the tension of whatever was causing me stress or anguish, so that I can feel a little more disarmed to have dialogue and to feel cared about, that you're not running just because I'm not shown up as my best self. Like when she's shown up in those ways, it's not her best self if she looks mad at me or she's looking very intense. And yet I'm able to tap into that little innocent side of her, knowing she's trying to say something to me and she's probably frustrated because she can't use words. Well, maybe that's true of us as adults and as people. Is it possible that sometimes when we are not communicating as our best selves, it's because in that moment the emotions have taken over and we don't know how? And maybe we're feeling overwhelmed and our words aren't coming out the way that we want, or we're not connecting to our little inner children and communicating from healed places and evolved places. And what if we had compassion for our fellow human in that way of saying, "You know what, they're trying to tell me something. Maybe it's not coming across the best way, but can I try to figure out, can I be empathic? Can I connect with the inner child in them in order to try to figure out how I can support their underlying needs?" The Principles in World of Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg is fantastic, an incredible model of communication that is very difficult to learn because it focuses on the nuances of connection interpersonally and of showing empathy, connecting empathically, and assessing another person's underlying needs to aid in communication. And it is a very sophisticated way to go about communication, frankly. So if you've never heard about it, highly recommend going to YouTube and doing a search for nonviolent communication videos. Look for the guy who's holding the puppets. I mean, just seeing him at the core delivering his protocol is just incredible and powerful. Now, what about when Kaylee's happy, right? We think about, oh gosh, it's so easy to be around people usually when they're happy. I won't say always, but often. And when Kaylee's happy, it is intoxicating, right? When she is just popping around, her tail's wagging, and everything's so great, it is intoxicating. And what about the times when, like we show up as our happy selves, when we don't feel like it, but we choose to write a different story for what the day is going to look like. If we choose to look for the beauty around us, if we choose to cherish the little small gifts and moments that are present in every moment of every day, can we look for the beauty in those moments? And how different would life feel? And would we be able to bounce around in that state of joy and elation the way our dogs and our pets can, for example? And then one other emotion I wrote down, fear. There are times that my little baby looks scared. There are times when she flinches when I go to touch her, and I don't know why. I mean, I could speculate she's been with me her whole life. There's never been a history of abuse. There's never been any sort of traumatic injury. There's been little things that she cut a toe or, like an elevator door closed and it really scared us, but nothing bad actually really happened. And yet that fear is probably still frozen in her little body. And so to this day, she'll flinch sometimes when I so much as go to put my hand on her head. She'll kind of bounce a little bit. And if a person reacted to us that way, it would be easy to back off all of a sudden or wonder what? That defensive reaction of I didn't do anything. And that fear that a person might label you as a threat somehow. And yet I never do that with my dog. When Kaylee seems to flinch, if anything, I lean in and say, baby, I'm sorry you're scared. Is there anything you need? And I pet her more gently and I'm more soft. I don't make her feel bad about the fact that she's got a sensitive system. I value that my little baby is just a little hypersensitive soul, and that's okay. And when I say hypersensitive or overly sensitive, I'm not talking about in a way of pathologizing it or saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just, no, she's a little sensitive soul, and that is beautiful about her. And I love everything about her, and I wouldn't change a thing. So I just thought I would share that because I just think about how often if we just approached each other with the beauty, the innocence, the tenderness that we do our animals, and if we thought about what our animals could be here to teach us, it's pretty profound. So thank you for being with me today, and I hope I see you again on another video. Mwah! Bye.